As Catherine had said, I had just done a piece a week or so ago about the Nobel Prize being awarded to President Obama, which surprised many, not least of all the President himself. And yet there was a compelling logic to it. And you go to any country except the United States, and people immediately understood why that prize made sense. In the United States, the right, of course, foaming, you could see the rabid foam drooling from people's chins, were outraged. This was a sign that he had, again, surrendered American interests to those European surrender monkeys. But Europeans got it. This is not a guy who has done nothing. Hans Blix wrote in an email to me after reading my piece, I'm telling people, when the Nobel Prize Committee gave the Peace Prize to Al Gore 2 years ago, it wasn't because he had stopped global warming. Rather, he had put global warming front and center on the international agenda so that it could not be ignored, and made people deal with it. And what Barack Obama has done has not solved all crises, but he has put a peace and security agenda of cooperation at the front of the international agenda. And we saw that in his speech at the UN. If you look back, you don't have to go back many years, but one, and a number of years before that, whatever the American president said at the General Assembly was duly noted and often quite criticized by those who spoke after him. In the case of President Obama, there was no competing message being given by Ban Ki-moon. Who? It is Obama who is defining the global agenda, and virtually everyone who spoke after him then pointed to what he said and took that as the basis for international action and debate. Even immediately right after him. And Tom, of course, rushed out, so he missed the Gaddafi speech that went. Gaddafi ran through 4 Arabic translators who were worn out as he kept going on and on. But one thing that he said that was most remarkable, when you consider the history there, is that, and this the White House did not point out to press people, was that perhaps Obama should be made president for life. Now, maybe that works in Libya. It certainly wouldn't work here, but it was an extraordinary thing to say. Hugo Chavez, famous for 2 years ago having sniffed the smell of the devil, having been at that rostrum only the day before, could say in his speech, I do not smell the devil here any longer. I smell hope. Chavez, who was, this again isn't something you would point to in Washington, given how polarizing he is in the Washington political atmosphere, but it was a sign of how thoroughly the international scene has been transformed. And let me just point to 4 elements of Obama's speech, because he described 4 pillars of the American global agenda, and it was clear that this was a speech that could not have been given by his predecessor, and to some degree could not have been given by his predecessor's predecessor. And this was part of what so thoroughly has won the hearts and minds of most of the world. First, he listed nuclear disarmament, which you ain't heard no American president say in at least a quarter of a century. And in this regard, this was the thing that the Nobel Prize Committee cited first and foremost, that commitment, which is what solves in so many ways all of the problems of building international coalitions against the further spread of nuclear weapons. And his predecessor could never talk about nuclear disarmament. Second, he talked about bringing peace in places like the Middle East, in Afghanistan, and strengthening UN peacekeeping, which we haven't heard in quite a while. Third, he talked about climate change and said that, quote, that the days when America was in denial are over on this. Again, something that could not have been said 1 year ago. And fourth, he talked about the international economy needing to generate prosperity for all with appropriate financial regulation to assure that you don't have recurrence of what we have gone through over the past year. most importantly, for well, there's a theme that Catherine had asked me to address, he noted in passing that he comes to the UN with America paid up in its dues. Now, he's the first president since Jimmy Carter who would be able to say that at the General Assembly, because from Carter till Obama, everybody in between has been laboring under, in some cases, have been instigators of massive delinquencies, non-payment of assessments. And that points to the change in the circumstance in which we're working that Tom Miller has already pointed out to us. Because for the past 25 years,